Hello Sherin, apa khabar?
I am good. Ajit, are you settled into the show already?
Yes, I have. I am settled in and I got a new t-shirt.
I know it looks so nice, the color. I like it on you. Who likes Ajit's new color today? Maroon. Doesn't it look nice on him? I so love it. But he had a episode this morning, so that's why the change of shirt. Okay, I will not go into his personal story. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome back to HRTV, your favorite online talk show for all things that's HR. If you're joining us for the first time, a big welcome to you. And for those who are regulars to the show, I'd like to welcome you back and thank you for always supporting us. We really appreciate it, right, Ajit?
Yes. We do
Yeah.
really appreciate it and we really appreciate your support, dialing in, coming in and talking to us as well.
That's
Okay.
right. So we want you all, whether you are regular or new to our show, sit back and relax because today we have a speaker flown in for you, specifically from Dubai for our HRTV episode, and it is all about building a high performing culture. So it's going to be a great session, I can assure you of that because there's lots of practical tips and fresh ideas that the speaker's going to share with you. So you make sure you don't miss out on any part of what's being spoken in the show, all right?
You are right, Shireen. After quite a long time, we have a speaker who's calling us from abroad. So I'm really excited, to see different perspective. And you rightfully mentioned. But for those who have tuned in for the first time, let me share a little bit about the show. We are known as hashtag HR Intervents, commonly known as hashtag HRTV. Is an online talk show presented by Compass Mind Asia, a renowned corporate training provider.
Yay, true, Ajit. And if any of you joining us today are in the HR or L&D line, being a manager, executive, or officer, and you're looking to plan trainings for your team, well, do drop me a PM on LinkedIn. You know my name there is exactly on LinkedIn, or drop us an email at training@compassmind.com. I repeat that, training@compassmind.com.
And in our previous episodes, we have engaged in discussions with many HR experts covering a wide range of topics related to HR and career development. In our past season, we have dwelled into fantastic topics such as managing workplace burnout, the future of work, talent management, DNA, and also many more.
Yeah, quite a lot of variety of HR areas that we have covered. But in case you feel like you're missed out on, you want to learn some things, make sure you can actually get those past episodes. We have actually recorded them. You go over to my YouTube channel called Shireen Kelly to watch it. I think we're putting it at the ticker below. Please write it
Yes.
down. Remember, don't go now, but check it out after this show because we don't want you all going missing right now, okay? And if you're wondering if the show is for you, if you're at the right place, right time, I want to assure you, yes, you are. Although today's topic is a very interesting one for Gen Z and building a high performance culture, but we all work with the Gen Zs. There's no running away. In fact, it's so nice to just assimilate with them, and they're amazing. So, this show is for everyone, including HR managers, directors, C suites, even if you're a business owner, and even if you are actually just seeking out a job, whether you're Gen Z or not, it doesn't matter really. Trust me, you're definitely in for a great treat today.
Okay, you're right, Shireen. As
Hmm?
always, you also want to get a little interactive with all our audience as well. We would want to get to know you. Please drop us an emoji. Please drop us a comment. Please say hi. Please say something. You can. We also welcome questions as the session goes along. Please drop in and do chat with us. We are waiting and we will want to interact as well. And also do share with us if you're having lunch, because it is lunchtime. It's supposed to be lunch talk between 1 to 2 o'clock. If you're having something while watching us, do share what are you having and where you are calling from as well. That would be good. Anything at all, please do drop us a call. If we have not met, my name is Ajit. I am driving culture transformation in an organization, and I have bring along with me about 25 years of human resource experience. And with me, I have Shireen, the ever lovely.
I'm Shireen Kelly, the managing director at Compass Mind Asia. I will not tell you how many years experience because I'm still very young, but I love to welcome you to HR Intervents in season 5, episode 6.
Six.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's say hello to Jasmine and also hello to someone dialing in right from Singapore, Clarice.
Oh, hi, Clarice. Hi, Jasmine.
Yeah. So nice to have you guys and more of you. Please, we see a lot of you online, but we're not, as long as we don't get a hello, we don't know who you are. We want to know who you are. So just drop a hello to us. Ajit, do you actually realize that we are approaching the second half of 2025 already? We are already in the second half of 2025.
Yes, so fast. Time flies, Shireen. It's June already. My
Yeah.
God.
And for our as for our HRTV, right, we're going into episode 6. I mean, we are
Yes.
actually now. Wait, we are now in episode 6, season
Yes.
5. That means we've been doing it 5 years and this is episode 6. And oh no, yeah, we're at episode 6, right? Yeah, correct. I'm
Yes.
getting confused about
So
six.
probably we would have, yeah, done about 50 over episodes already, yeah, or more than that. Huh?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Mm.
Mm. So Ajit, we have got more people. You want to say hello to them?
Yep, we have Noor Fatiha saying hi, Wayne Lim saying hi, and Viola. Oh, this name is interesting. Nikolaus saying hi, Shireen and Ajay. Okay, hello, 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 and do tell us where you are dialing in from. Okay, through Shireen, this year has been a we have discovered amazing topics with amazing speakers, and today is another day of full serious discussions. Okay, shall we introduce our amazing guest for today, who sits in a different zone of time with us, and he's from Dubai. Let's introduce our guest, Shireen. Over to you.
Yeah, I look forward. Today we have our guest from Dubai. He's Ian, who brings with him over 15 plus years of experience. So in a way, he is about my age, yeah. And he's covered across core industries such as food tech, private equity, data science, and management consulting too. He's a chartered fellow of CIPD from UK, and he holds a master's in applied psychology. So be careful; he can read through and through of you, huh? And he is a certified professional coach. He really holds a lot of very deep knowledge. So make sure you tune in to hear him out. Yeah. In the past 8 years, Ian has been driving the people agenda for Kitopi, the entertainer, and more recently, a state sovereign. I'm so bad at pronouncing that. Wealth fund. From talent acquisition to performance management, Ian specializes in optimizing the employee life cycle, building high performance organizations, and implementing impactful organizational development. He also empowers organization to achieve measurable success through data driven, people centric strategies. Powerful, isn't it? If you think it's so
Yes.
powerful, make sure you give some hearts and some clap emojis, and please help me welcome Ian Lee.
Hi,
Hi
Ian.
everyone.
Welcome.
Hi Ajit. Hi Shireen.
Hello.
Very
Thank you for.
exciting to see both of you.
We are excited to have you actually.
Well, thank you
Excellent.
for having me actually. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And it's a true honor to have you with us today. We are so excited to learn more about this journey from you. Before we dwell into today's topic, why not tell us something about yourself, to the audience, or maybe something that not many people know about. But before that, let's say hi to Nurul Asma, both hi, and Jacqueline Ko. Hi, Jacqueline.
Colin. Mm.
Okay, Ian, over to you. Introduce
Hi,
yourself.
hi. Hi, and I see Kim Lai Teo as well. Saying hi there
Yeah,
as
he
well.
was saying hi,
Yeah,
Theo.
yeah, yeah. Hi. Something about myself. um well
Oh,
actually no, there's some something personal or something professional.
Personal better. We like personal stuff. Me and Shane. We like personal juicy stuff.
yes. The juicier, the nicer.
Okay, cool. Uh, okay, well, anyway, on a personal note, when I'm not doing my corporate work or when I'm not doing coaching or not running workshops or besides putting out my corporate hat, in my own free time, I'm a pretty hardcore gamer myself. So
Oh, okay.
pretty hardcore gamer, yes. I do a lot of games with my wife, so we play all kinds of games. And, yeah, I'm a hardcore gamer basically. Yeah,
Your wife also plays games with you.
yeah, correct. She's
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
correct. She's my partner in crime.
Okay. What kind of games do you play? What anything that you're on now?
Well, we finished Diablo, so we finished
Okay.
the entire. It's an RPG, right?
Yeah.
We played Monster Hunter as well.
Mm,
I think some of you who play PS5, you know the game Overcooked. So
mm.
actually, Overcooked is a very good game for team building, actually, and for you to actually gauge someone's level of intelligence as well. You play Overcooked. It's a very stressful game. Just be very careful because if you're four people playing, you'll probably have people shouting at each other midway through the game.
Oh, oh,
Maybe
nice.
maybe even at the beginning of the game, if you're very competitive.
Okay, interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
So did you play it? Do you only play with your wife, or you play it with public too?
Depends on which game, right? So sometimes we have friends over to the house, so we play with our friends on a LAN setting, right? And there are some of the games that I play online, so I play against online players as well, and from all over the world. So I played against players in the States, in Saudi, and all over basically in Asia. Yeah,
Hmm.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. By the way, what's the time now there?
it's
You're-
9:14 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
Ian has just woken up.
Good morning to you. Good
No
morning.
lah, no lah. I woke up before 8, prepared just specifically for this call, So yeah, all good.
Oh,
Mm,
good
oh,
morning to you, Ian.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Well, it
I know
is
it's
lunch.
lunchtime. Yeah, I know it's
Yeah,
lunchtime
we're
now.
promoting that it's lunch, and our
Yeah,
viewers are all watching. But honestly, we don't know where everyone is from. You see, Viola, I'm not sure where she's from, which is a very unique name.
Yeah.
yeah,
Sue
yeah.
just joined us, so hello, Sue. So it'd be nice to know where everyone's from. I know Clarice is from Singapore.
Ah,
So Wayne, I wonder. Okay, let us know where you're from, guys, because Ian is from Dubai, so we also like to know where everyone else is. So just type in the chat box. All right, Ajit,
okay.
sorry, I spoke for space.
Okay. Okay, allow me to introduce today's topic. Today's episode is more about building a high performance culture in an organization. In today's fast paced world, performance isn't only about hitting targets, but it's also about hitting the target with good mindset, culture, and strong leadership. As team faces hybrid work or generation gaps and global challenges, creating a culture that drives performance is more important than ever currently. That's how things are as of now. We will talk a little bit about high performance. What does it mean in today's environment, and how to use OKRs better, improve employee experience, and learn from global leadership practices. So, without further ado, let's jump into our conversation with our guest today. And I'm sure everybody is looking forward for this year. We have got Siti Haniza also saying, good afternoon, Najib and Shireen. Good morning, Ian. And we have Viola saying she's from East Malaysia, Labuan. Okay, Viola. Nice. We have someone from Labuan. Welcome, welcome. We also have Farah Zian saying hi. Okay, Shireen, over to you for the first question.
Yeah. Ian, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, let's take off on the rocket ship. Ian, how do you actually define performance in the context of organizational culture, and what makes it a high performance?
Great question, Shireen. So I basically, when you think about performance, right? How we typically define performance within an organization is basically output, right? It's output, is results which are being delivered by the organization, and results being delivered by the organization delivered by the employees, right? So that's the first thing. That's the most simple definition of performance, right? But then when you talk about high performance culture, right, that's a different game altogether. Because when you talk about high performance culture, there's a few components to a high performance cultures. So in summary, right, when you think about high performance culture, it's basically about it's about the way people do things, the way people execute, the way people deliver when no one is watching, when your manager's not watching, when you don't have peers watching, when you don't have your CEO breathing down your neck. How do you execute in those moments, right? When no one's watching, you're all by yourself. What does it look like, right? And so I typically break down high performance culture consists of three different things, right? You have a very clear mission, a clarity around what your purpose is, your organization, and you. There's alignment there. There is clarity around metrics, around what the output needs to be and how you're measuring those outputs. And then the final thing is actually this, right? Rituals. What you are doing on a daily basis, what you're doing on a weekly basis, right? Rituals is so crucial because some organizations have a very good purpose mission statement. They're good clarity, their vision, right? They're very sometimes some of them are very clear with what they want to deliver in terms of outcome as well. But rituals is where they break down because devil is in the details, right? So rituals actually tells you how we need to carry ourselves in the most detailed manner, right? How we need to execute, how we need to treat each other, how we need to be delivering our work, etc., etc. Yeah.
All right. Has Ajit hung or something? Oh, okay, he's there. Ajit,
No, I'm okay.
you are absorbing
I saw the
Ian's.
line.
No, I think Ajit is
Okay,
thinking. I think
everything.
Ajit is thinking.
Yeah, he is. He looks like he is so deep in the thought of what you just said. Ajit, on to you.
Wait, am I breaking or what?
No, you're very
Oh, we hear
clear.
you.
Okay.
Yeah,
We hear
yeah.
you.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
good. Okay. So I like this part. I like the part where clarity and also about the rituals. I like these two things: clarity about vision, and then the rituals. Now, my question is, what are the relationship between culture and tangible business outcomes? So it goes back to clarity and rituals again. Outcome like productivity, profitability, and also innovation.
The relationship, right, between these two, is definitely interconnected, right? So actually, what you actually see is when there is a strong high performance culture, you definitely see a direct correlation with productivity, with overall organizations being able to smash their H1, H2, H3, H4 deliverables into revenues, profitability, etc., right? But more importantly, actually, what you actually see typically within organizations with a high performance culture is that the retention rates are usually quite good as well. You will see that employees tend to stick around with a lot of those organizations, and that's very important, right? Because when employees actually stick around a little bit longer with high performing organizations, then you have continuity. Because high performance culture, which is just going to last for 2 or 3 years, doesn't mean anything much, right? So you got 2 or 3 years of high performance, and then everyone's burnt out. But I think later we can circle back to the topic of burnout. But when you have high performance culture and when you got like, you know, a very hardcore type of leadership team who's driving all kinds of results, but then you end up burning your whole team down, right? Then, you know, everyone's just going to last 2-3 years and then you're just going to go through a revolving door. So continuity is very important here as well. Yeah, but what you typically see is in when you got high performance culture, when you have all these rituals in place and there's clarity around purpose, there's clarity around what we're measuring, and people are very very clear about the rituals that we uphold on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. um, Direct impact on business outcomes. So whatever business outcomes you're looking to measure, right? Whether it's your profits, whether it's your revenue, you know, your EBITDA, you know, even when it comes to your people matrix, right? When it comes to engagement levels, when it comes to even when you're measuring your retention numbers, you know, even if you are more progressive and you actually have enough courage to start measuring your employee net promoter score, which I actually encourage as a HR practitioner that you should start measuring your ENPS instead of just measuring engagement, because your ENPS score tells you a lot of things the engagement score doesn't necessarily tell you.
It's very
Agreed, agreed,
that's
agreed. So, Ian, just to build on this, so you are saying that if we have employees who are longer with us, actually, it's a result of
performing
but
culture.
high performance.
Okay, so interesting you bring out that point, Ajit. There are two sides of the coin here. There are two
Yes.
sides of the coin. Okay, two sides of the coin. One side of the coin, one side of the coin is what I've observed firsthand, right? Is that some of the highest performing organizations uh,
Mm.
has some of the highest retention rates, right? And the reason behind it is typically high performing individuals or high performing teams or high performing leaders or A players. I like to call them A players, right? Let's call it A players now. So A players like to work with other A players, right?
Mm.
So, right, A players like to work with other A players because it's challenging, very rewarding to do excellent work, right? And,
Agreed,
and the payoff and the rewards are immense.
agreed.
Where the other side of the coin, Ajit, to your point, the other side of the coin is what I've also seen is that low performing teams or mediocre performing teams also sometimes have high retention rates as well, because
Yes.
environment is quite comfortable, right?
Mm.
It's status quo. It's like, we're in a stable industry, no one's coming to disrupt us, we have all our processes in place, everyone comes in for regular 8-hour days. We go for coffee all the time and we chill, and we know what we need to deliver, so we just having a good time, right? So typically in environments like that, I also see people staying, and employees in those organizations are very reluctant to leave as well. And I'm sure we know which organizations this is lah, huh? And there's nothing there's inherently nothing wrong with that as well, right? So depends on what your cup of tea is lah, what you prefer to have.
Yeah, what you're comfortable with. Yeah, I also
Yeah,
like to add that also sometimes A players, they love the drive working with A players,
yeah,
and then they get paid very well also. But whether that is their cup of tea,
correct.
eventually as we move on in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that's great sharing, Ian. I have another question for you. How can leaders set clear expectations and performance standards without creating a fear-based culture?
Great question. um I think there's two things here, right? A fear-based culture and clarity around standards, right?
Mm.
A fear-based. So let's drill in a bit deeper, and I'm putting my coaching hat here, right? After so many years being in in internal roles, leading, learning, talent across the board, org development, what I've noticed is this: when there is a strong fear culture in the organization, it's because one, there's a lot of micromanagement happening.
Mm.
Okay, where are you? Why are you not in the office yet? What are you doing now? Show me your calendar. Give me access to your calendar, right? Everything to like every single work that needs to be delivered needs the eyeball from the manager. Every single level, right, needs approval after approval, right? So a lot of micromanagement, um a lot of daily check-ins, right? So your micromanagement, your daily check-ins, your constant level approval, and just your just leaders and managers being like a hawk, right? Just constantly just hawking, and we call it, right, hawking on work of the team, right? And that's coming. But if you look at it, if you dig in deeper into culture of fear, what you notice is there's a lot of insecurity, because there's a lot of insecurity because leaders or managers are not entirely sure whether the team is able to deliver at the level. uh, they are not sure, right? And sometimes there's insecurity there, but also there's a lack of trust as well. There's a lack of trust where the manager or the leader does not necessarily trust the team to be able to deliver at the level that needs to be delivered. That's the first point. But then the other point as well is it could also be the team member not trusting the leader or the management enough, right? To be able to be able to fully unleash what they need to deliver. So um yeah, but to be able to, so that's the culture of fear, right? Shri, I'm addressing that first one. But to be able to tackle that, right? And my most simple idea, but what I've seen happen very what I've seen happen very, very clearly as well, is also in terms of in terms of thinking about past experience. That's not reliable as well, because managers often carry a lot of baggage with them as well, right? So they move from one organization to the next organization, organization. So if they come from an organization that has a lot of fear, right, driven into the past, into them, they've been micromanaged by their boss all the time before in the past. So this is the management style they carry forward into their role as well. Yeah. um I hope that answers your question, Shireen. But the other part, and the simplest, most straightforward way to be able to take on creating a culture of fear is actually driving a culture of trust. But trust needs to be delivered from what we talked about earlier, right? Clarity of purpose and clarity of deliverables and outcomes as well. So what we should be driving for is actually being very, very clear about what needs to be delivered and what needs to be outcome driven and deliverable driven, instead of um, honing in on the minor details.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
interesting. I like the part where we talk about building trust instead of driving fear, and then talking about coming up with clear deliverables and outcomes so that people will be able to build trust more instead of just having fear. You're right. You're right. I like that very much. Okay, before we move on to the next question, I would like to hear from the audience. If they have any questions or they have any feedback or any comments or anything that resonate with you, please do type and let us know. Please do share in the comment box. We welcome questions as well. We have Ian in the house today to answer all our questions. Okay, and so far we are doing very well. Thank you, Ian. I like your answers very much. Okay, that brings me to the next question. Is about strategy.
mm.
What are practical strategies for building a culture of accountability where team members consistently deliver on their commitments?
Great question, Ajit. I love this question. Okay, so let's talk about a few things, right? And this is from real-time experience, because so far we've been talking about, we've been talking about frameworks and some of our thought processes. Um, I'll share a couple of real-time systems and examples that I've used before in the past. So for when I first came to the Middle East, right, specifically to Dubai about 6 years ago, I was part of the fastest growing uh, fastest growing unicorn, actually. So we got to 1 billion valuation, right? A food tech company called Kitopi. So we got to 1 billion valuation in 4 years. 4 years, right?
Wow.
So
Wow.
and I joined them a year and a half after they actually set up, right? So if you talk about building a system of accountability, I had a front row seat when I was at Kitopi, because I was first doing org design, org development, and then I went on to lead people experience and learning and talent, and I built Kitopi Academy, right? And what we did was we were very clear about how we were going to hold people accountable, right? Which is that's when we actually started launching OKRs, right? So, you know, for those of us who don't know, OKR stands for objectives and key results, right? So some of us are still managing performance management using KPIs, balanced scorecards, etc. And I would encourage all of you, if those of you who have not been exposed to OKRs yet, to go and understand understand a little bit more about what OKRs can do for you. But we were very clear, right, that we wanted to, one, hold people accountable for what they were delivering, and two, not just hold accountable people for what they were delivering, but be able to measure results and deliverables in very short periods of time, right? So you know how performance management is typically 1 year cycles, and then you break it down to 6 month
months.
cadences, right? So you have your mid-year check-in, then you have your year-end check-in, right?
Right.
So OKRs breaks that down completely, right? So OKRs actually, what it does is that it has clarity around what you need to deliver over a whole year, and then it breaks it down to quarterly cadences. So every 3 months, right? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, right? But and every end of the quarter, you have a very clear deliverable or deliverables what you need to deliver, right? 3 or 4 areas, and within those 3 or 4 areas, within the quarter as well, is broken down to monthly deliverables, right? So think about it, right? Big 1 year goal, big chunk, right? Clarity around that, broken down into 4 quarters, 4 big parts, and then in each of those quarters is broken down to on a monthly basis as well. So you have cadences from an annual basis to a quarterly basis to a monthly basis. It's very clear. And the idea behind it is that people are held accountable when there is, a system that it's, you see, when you're looking at an annual, let's circle back a little bit. When you're looking at an annual model, right, it's a lagging indicator. Why?
Yeah.
Because, right, and Ajay, Shireen, you all would know this, right? It's a lagging indicator because when you're tracking goals on an annual and 6 month basis, you don't actually know how your teams are performing until you get to your month 4 or month 5, and then after that you sit down for your performance, and then you know what you're being rated, right? Or you know how you're delivering. uh, OKRs, right, as a performance management system, allows you to track performance, output, and deliverables almost on a weekly basis if you want to, right? So imagine on a weekly basis up to your monthly basis, you actually know how you are performing. At the end of every quarter, you actually know how you're contributing to the organization, and you would also know how the organization is doing as well. So talking about dashboards, so in Kitopi, what we used to have is an organization dashboard, right? And everyone had access to it. We would be able to see how the organization is doing revenue wise. We'll be able to see how the organization is doing profits wise. We'll be able to see how we're doing in terms of operations efficiency. We measured 5 things, right? Profits, revenue, EBITDA, right? EBITDA, revenue. We will be able to measure operations. We'll be able to measure customer service excellence because we wanted to deliver a wow experience to customers. And the final thing is we were also measuring employee net promoter score as well. We wanted to know whether would our employees engaged, whether employees are finding purpose and meaning in their work, but more importantly as well, whether employees will actually would recommend other people to come and work with the company as well. So, and imagine, right, at any point of time you log into the platform, you'll be able to see how the company is doing across all these 5 areas. You'll be able to see your own performance. You'll be able to see your manager's rating of you, and you'll be able to also view company performance all in real time.
You have a system for that?
Yes, we have a performance management system for it. So we initially had one system. It was called Engagedly, and then eventually we moved on to Culture M, which is obviously a more sophisticated platform. And both of them, I enjoyed using them. But Culture M had a lot of interactivity and a lot more mobile friendly as well. Yep.
Okay.
I'm
And this
writing
is also part of a HRIS system.
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
Correct.
fantastic.
Correct. Yeah, it's all fully integrated into your HRIS. So, for example, if you're using SAP SuccessFactors, now SuccessFactors is pretty good as well. Yeah.
Yep.
But SuccessFactors has some limitations. I'm sure those of you who are using SF right now, you all know that. But I would say it's pretty good as well. It has good level interaction. It has cadences. You can customize it to the level of cadence that you want it to be. So yeah.
So the two you mentioned were Engagedly and Culture M.
Yes.
Yay. Okay, go and check it out later. That'll
Yeah,
be
you
one.
can go check it out. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for sharing those, Ian. Very helpful.
No problem.
Very helpful tools for organizations also, and also bringing up the OKR also.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have another question for you. How do you instill a performance-oriented mindset across organizations, especially in teams that may be underperforming?
Stop sending your people for workshops in the sense of trying to instill those mindsets in them. What I'm trying to say is this, right? Workshops and experiences and running sessions and trying to instill those mindsets are great, but they are
Mm,
great for those 2 days, right? What's more important, I would say this, right? What's more powerful, what's more important is that if your leaders are leading by example, right?
Yeah.
So if your leaders are leading by example and they themselves are embodying their mindset. So what I typically see is a breakdown of this, right? Is that the senior management and the CEO and senior management is talking about, we want to have a high performance culture, we want to have a high performance mindset, right? And then after that, they launch a bunch of comms and they have posters and all that, right? And then they do a town hall and they put all these fancy slides and they got great videos. But then what happens after that is then it's status quo. Then it's going back to water cooler conversations, right? It goes back to all the status quo, right? It goes back to business as usual, right? Nothing has changed, right? Um, the when it comes to mindset, this is one of the most challenging areas to change. And the first group of people which are most critical to change in terms of mindset in an organization, if we are to have a high performance culture, are the leaders and the managers. That's it. When the leaders and managers are embodying the right mindset, and then it becomes a role modeling at its best, right? And so going back to what I said earlier, right? The workshops, right? Workshops are very powerful tools. And I would always recommend this. If you're leading learning or talent in your organization, I'm speaking to the audience, right? If you're leading learning or talent within organizations, the first group of people you should tackle are the managers and the leaders in your organization, right? You do that, and then half your job is, I would say 80% of your job is done, right? And then they would do the job for you in terms of being able to build a high performance culture across the whole organization. What I typically see is organization investing a lot of money in individual contributors and a lot of budget in running programs for individual contributors, but nowhere near enough investments for leaders and managers, because our leaders and managers are very busy. They got no time to go for workshops. They got no time to go for programs. So what do? We send individual contributors. I would encourage you to rethink the model in terms of how you want to approach it.
Mm. Okay, I think interesting. I like the concept. I think, and I will also concur. I think I totally agree with you. Get the leadership right, the whole organization will just fall in place. I like a very good. I like a very powerful saying. Every time I carry around with me, the fish drops from the head. You
Uh,
know, you manage that, everything is fine.
100%,
Anyway,
Ajit.
Coming back to our questions, my next one. Okay, what KPIs or culture indicators should organization track to evaluate whether the culture is truly enabling high performance?
Yeah. So a number of metrics that you can actually measure, right? So I mentioned earlier already, you can actually measure your employee net promoter score. So
Yeah,
ENPS is one score, but that's from a people perspective, right? Then what you want to also be measuring is your revenue per head as well.
yeah,
So if you're a 2,000 person organization or you're a 60,000 person organization, compared against revenue, if you're doing 10 billion US dollar revenue per year, then you do that deduction, right? And do you know there's a global benchmarking as well, in terms of revenue per head? And if you belong to different categories of revenue per head, it will be able to tell you how high performing you are, or how mediocre or how low performing you are in terms of as an organization, right? So you want to be measuring revenue per head. That's one measurement. You want to be obviously measuring your employee net promoter score, but you also want to be measuring your customer net promoter score as well. Especially if you are in a consumer facing business. So your customer net promoters. So going back to, we always measure customer satisfaction score, but I challenge you. That's just the first step. The next step you want to go beyond that is you want to see whether your customers will actually recommend other customers to come to you, right? So if you think about it, uh, if you're familiar with online retailers and e-commerce, you would have heard about an American retailer called Zappos. So Zappos, before they were acquired by Amazon quite a few years ago, Zappos is a legendary shoe retailer, right? They started as a shoe retailer, and then obviously they went into e-commerce and they started selling other things. For Zappos, right, more than 60% of their business, right, even up to today, more than 60% of their business comes from word of mouth and from referral. It comes from you and me, right? It does not come from cool marketing ads. It doesn't come from marketing campaigns. And they do that very well, by the way. But more than 60% of their business actually comes from word of mouth, from customers recommending other customers.
That's the most powerful way of marketing when it's referral-based marketing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't need billboards, you don't need cold calls, you don't need all that, but you're that good and people speak about you.
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
and
cool.
and and so it's immediate. There's immediate social proof there already, right? So imagine if you've got a really good relationship, right? If you've got a really good relationship that you've built with a client, and the client really likes the quality of your work and really sees the value, and then recommends another client, right? I think that's where the magic is, and then it just snowballs, right?
Yeah, it's half the battle is won already because then
Exactly.
the trust is already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lisa says, "Hello, bro. I came to support you again." I think that means Ajit, and of course you too, Shireen. Luckily, she said that. Yes, Manchor.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
All right. Actually, just in time, I've questions for the audience. Actually, I don't have quite questions for the audience, but I want you guys, if you have any questions or personal experiences with regards to the topic for today, feel free to drop it in the chat box because Ian is there ready to answer any of the questions that you have. We want to hear from you. Okay, so drop us your questions or share your personal experiences. All right, Ian. Another question for you. How should leaders address consistent under? I think I'm talking to you more on underperformance today, lah. Huh? My
Yeah.
questions to you is more on the underperformance. How should leaders address consistent underperformance while maintaining morale and respect in the team?
Great question, Shireen. I've been thinking about this, right? And I knew this question was going to come anyway when we're talking about this topic. See, typically, leaders and organizations react in two ways when there's underperformance, whether it's a team or whether it's individuals. Two ways. One is the cold storage. Underperforming, I transfer you, I put you in the corner, I cold storage you. So you leave yourself. Okay, so that cold storage method. Second method is I put you on PIP. You're underperforming, right? I put you on PIP, and then I figure out a way how I can exit you from the organization legally, like that, right? But what we typically don't stop to do, or we don't pause to do, is this, right? What we typically don't do is this: is we don't pause to actually do a proper diagnosis. Is this a skill thing? Is this a skill thing, right? Is this a skill, will, or context thing, right? Is this because the person doesn't have the right skills and competencies to be able to execute the work? Or is this because this person have the will to do it? This person has the skill but doesn't have the will to do it, right? This person's head is not in the right place, or this person doesn't feel as engaged, right? Or could it be context? Could it be the team is going through a very unstable period? The leaders are constantly changing, the manager constantly changing, and and it's a team that very uncertain about whether the function is even going to be around in the next 6 months, right? There's some rumor going around the organization. It could be one of these three. It could be two of these three, or it could be even be three of these three, right? So first, I will always recommend diagnose the issue properly first, right? As human capital leaders, I think we have that responsibility and that calling, that high calling, to be able to diagnose it properly. Don't knee-jerk react, right? That is very common, right? And I know that like 100 managers come to us and constantly we've got 101 problems, right? This is not one of it. We want to just do the easy thing, either cold storage or just put our PIP and we be done with it, right? But what I would recommend is diagnose the problem properly first, understand what is it, and then after that, if it's a skill area, then we need to decide, is it a very big gap? So if it's a very big gap, then you need to ask some very hard questions, right? Is this big gap going to take a long time to bridge, right? And then that's going to be a bigger question. If there was a big gap, technical skill, right? What happened during the interview phase that this candidate could actually go through all the interviews to be able to get into the organization? So there's an even bigger question to ask, right? So, but if the gap areas are small and you can bridge it, right? Then what we need to do is we need to start thinking about how do we bridge those gaps, right? So that's one. But if it's a skill, but if it's a will thing or it's an attitude area, it's more tricky. So that part, you need to think a little bit more about it, right? What I often see is that my experience, whether I was a Kitopi or was an entertainer, or even when I was a Jacob, right? And right now we're Bisping Global and Alnaas, what I've seen is typically what I've seen is not usually a skill thing or a context thing, but usually more of an attitude / will thing. So that's the tricky part. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. So I see a question from Shireen.
No, that's why I
Okay.
would like to ask you a question. Oh, I think
Go
it
for
came
it.
up. It's not being published here, so my
Okay.
team took it. So someone has a question. Since you
Got
worked
it.
in Dubai, can you share any culture, values, or leadership practices you encountered that could benefit us in Malaysia?
I would say the leaders in the Middle East are very direct. They're very direct, and I think for us Malaysians, we normally have very nice managers, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes we can be a bit passive aggressive as well. We are nice, but then when it comes to delivering feedback in a more direct manner, sometimes I wouldn't say all the time, but sometimes I feel as Malaysians we are very nice, right? In that sense, with in Dubai, in the Middle East, I think leaders and managers are a little bit more direct, and sometimes can be a little bit overly direct. But the result of that, right? The result of that is that it addresses the issue head on, right? So you don't skirt around it, you don't beat around the bush, you don't waste time around. You go straight to the issue or the problem, right? And what you do is you attack it straight on, and sometimes there can be multiple outcomes, right? Sometimes the person receiving it be like, oh, I can't take it because it's such a difficult feedback to absorb, right? But then what you realize is after a while you realize if this is true and this will benefit me, then you start processing feedback very differently. So I would say in terms of the manner of feedback, I think that would be something that we could definitely learn from Middle East based leaders and managers. A lot more direct, uh, and they're a lot more straight to the point. And you're not left guessing as well where you are in terms of your performance. You're not like, am I performing? Am I not performing? Am I okay performer? Am I valued? Your leaders and your managers will know. You will directly know. You won't need to, yeah, you won't need to guess. I think there's a
Mm,
question from Anis as well, right?
yeah. Koji, do you want to take that question for Ian?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's another question. What strategies would you recommend for a new company that just getting started?
Great question, Anis. So I would say, since we're talking about high performance culture, right? I would say for this question would be first and foremost, I think there needs to be clear strategy around how you're going to manage a performance, right? How you're going to manage performance. And I will go back again. If you're a startup and you just you just started up, you're in the initial phases, implementing OKRs as a clear performance management framework and a toolkit is going to do wonders for you. Because in fact, if you go deeper into the OKR methodology, right, what you will actually have is you will be able to break down cadences even to a monthly, weekly basis, right? And if you're a startup, you want to be able to doing that. You want to be able to do that. You want to be able to measure outputs, deliverables, outcomes, on a weekly, on a monthly basis, even on a daily basis if you want to. Because for startups, a mortality rate is very, very high. And if you're not killing it, if you're not hustling
Yeah.
on a daily basis, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I
I like
wonder whether is asking as a new company has been startup lah. All right. Yeah. Ajit, sorry, I cut into your.
So
no
anyway, I
problem.
actually wanted to ask a question. Anis, did you have something else in mind as well? Because when you say new strategies, I don't know, maybe you would want to comment there, Anis, as in terms of maybe other areas, more specific areas you're thinking about for a new
Mm.
company. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then after that, we can circle back to that question code.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can. Yes. If you have anything specific, you want to be more specific in the question, Anis, by all means. Anyway, Ian, I want to bring you back to the feedback part. I like the feedback part where you talk about in Dubai, they're very direct compared to where we are here in Malaysia. We tend to sugarcoat and things like that. And of
Mm.
course, direct feedback drives performance and all. You can't, I would, there's nothing more to agree. I think that's the best to do. But then again, at which junction would do we practice giving feedback and at which junction do we do, because there's various kind of feedback. There's going to be feedback that is a little bit sugar coat, there's going to be positive feedback, there's going to be constructive feedback, and there's going to be backup feedback and things like that. So what kind of feedback are you going to give at which junction, and how would you recommend?
I would say it depends on it really depends on the situation, which is where situational leadership comes in, right? And through your
Okay.
experience, you will be able to see it. So, for example, um, you would need to take a few things into consideration. What is the context, right? What is at stake here? What is the context? What is being delivered? You would also you probably also need to think a little bit about the personality of the person you're giving the feedback to,
Mhm.
and what I typically what I'm a strong believer in as well is that we need to tailor feedback to the audience, right? So we can't use the same 10 ways of giving feedback to the same 10 people. We give the same feedback to all 10 people. It doesn't work, because the recipient receives it differently, right? So, for example, going to the direct feedback route, right? Ajit, you spoke about it just now. The direct feedback route. Does the direct feedback route work for everyone? Actually, the truth is no, it doesn't work for everyone. Because
Mm.
sometimes when the feedback is overly direct, instead of the person absorbing the feedback, the person resists the feedback. So it has the opposite effect. So you need to think about um, in what way would this person receive the feedback in the most constructive manner, right?
Yeah.
But what is also more important as well, what managers and leaders need to realize is this: you need to invest in your team, by the way. You need to build the relationship and the trust, and you need to invest in your team. Your team needs to feel like you have their corner and that you're invested in them succeeding, right? The moment they feel like you are on the same side with them, at the same corner with them, right, you've got their back. When you give feedback, and even if it's direct feedback, it will be much better received compared to if you've drawn that barrier between you and your team, and and your team does not necessarily trust you or know that you have their corner, right? Then then you're setting their feedback out for failure.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, you cannot be the boss and they're the staff, and then you try to give feedback. You will never be bought through, whether you're doing it the nice way or the harsh way, direct way. Yeah,
I've
relationship is very
Yeah,
important.
correct. I've seen some of the best bosses deliver very harsh feedback. I've been a recipient of it myself as well, right? And I've delivered and the same way as well, right? Have I delivered very harsh feedback to team members before? I have, right? But the difference is because it's always been the manager really spending time investing and caring for the team members, and really is really that, right? And so when harsh feedback comes around, it becomes better received because it's explained why is this feedback being delivered. And the team member receiving the feedback also knows that this feedback is coming because my manager wants the best for me, right? And has my best interest in mind as well. And this is not good enough, right? This level of performance is not good enough because I know you can do better.
So true. I'm the kind of person, if I have a good
Yeah.
relationship with my boss, I will want that direct feedback. No beat around the bush, because then I know how to do, better in that exact areas that I need to improve.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Sometimes the culture of the Westerners, where they're very direct, I think it's a good thing rather than beating around the bush. Yeah. All right. Ian, another question. We're at 156. Wow, how time flies. How can organizations design recognition systems that genuinely reinforce high performance behaviors rather than just, the results?
This goes back to rituals. I think we can skip all the usual rewards, because we've got bonuses and all that, and I think typically all organizations have those pieces in place. And then it goes back to rituals, right? So you can gamify the reward experience actually. So what I typically so for example, with Kitopi last time, even with entertainer, right, what we did was we actually had culture and values champions, right? So for example, on a monthly basis, we would have shout outs for values champions, right? So we had a value called we leverage momentum, so at Kitopi, right? So what we will do is we will identify who were the ambassadors and who exemplified leveraging momentum the most in the month, and then we would do a monthly shout out during the town hall, and then we would also give them a reward as well, right? Whether it's a meal voucher or whether it's a special session with the CEO, or and also we give them a bit of airtime as well, right? We describe a little bit about why this person is a values champion and what was the example given. So being able to gamify that experience and being able to give the values champions publicity, and a bit of airtime, I think goes a long way as well in making them feel recognized, heard, and also supported in that process as well. Yeah. So gamifying the and there's a lot of ways for you to gamify. You can do shout outs, you can do values ambassadors, you can give up prizes, small little prizes. It doesn't need to be big prizes. You can give up meal vouchers. You can have a leadership table. You can have a you can have a like a live leadership table. People can score on different scores, right? And peers, right? You can reward each other. You say you did something great this time, and this is why, and I'm going to reward you a certain point, etc. And then you can use those points to redeem something, and you can have a catalog of redemptions. You can gamify it a lot of different ways.
All right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Talking about gamification, that's one part. And you also mentioned about a shout out, Ian. Even that, a shout out is like a little pat on a person's back, where it's not being given out there, so people die for that also. And that is actually so small a thing that people
Yeah,
can do. Great job, man. And then, for this great job, here's a meal voucher or something. Even if it doesn't come with a meal voucher or whatever, even that pat on the back is powerful already.
correct.
Hmm.
Correct. And I think we don't. I think we don't do enough of the public shout outs of
Hmm.
inspiring exemplary behavior. I don't think we do enough of that.
Yeah, it's lacking. It's massively lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of gifts go around and stuff like that. Bonuses are normal, increments are okay, normal. But yeah, you're right. You really added something very valuable. All
Yep.
right. Ojit.
Yeah. By the hour, Sharin, we should proceed with the closing.
Oh, we are. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yes, we are right on.
Yes. So engrossed. Oh,
Oh, I gone by too quickly. The conversation is too good.
yeah.
And we've approached the end of our session for today, and I've got so many more questions, more to learn from you, Ian.
It's okay. We can do part 2.
Yeah, man, and it really didn't feel like an hour has passed, but we really like to thank you, Ian, for such an insightful session and most of all, a serious discussion with us today. We really appreciate the time you took.
Yes, and before we end the session, is there any way where the audience could reach out to you in the event if they've got further questions or they want to know more? Is there any way that they could reach out?
Yes, definitely. So they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. They can connect with me on LinkedIn and drop me a message there. They can do that. And yeah, I'm very responsive on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me there. You can connect with me, and yeah,
Wow.
and
Yeah,
we
the
can
team
connect
has
there.
already put it in the clicker below. So make sure you connect to Ian. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Again, thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
Ian, for
much
joining
for joining
today.
us.
Well, thank you for having me, Shireen and Ajit. It's been a pleasure, and it's been a
It
pleasure
is
seeing all of you here as well.
totally. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from today because I did learn a lot. I wrote so much of notes. Like I mentioned earlier, we are halfway through and we have a lot more coming up, all planned up for you for your next episode. So stay tuned and we'll definitely be catching up with you later. So remember, we'll catch up with you later on the serious discussion sessions. Or we meet again.
Bye bye.
Bye.